Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our channel, Kelly and Mark Official, and new video. I hope everyone is well and having a nice day. Before we begin the video, please subscribe and give the video a thumbs up. It was one of those nights when everything in life seemed to slow down just long enough for you to appreciate it. And I still remember the moment so well because it seemed like one of those nights. I could sense the enthusiasm in Mark's voice before he even finished the phrase, because he had just told me earlier that day that he was going to go attend the very first preview performance of the Broadway show. Mark had told me that he was expecting to go see the show. At this point, it is common knowledge that Mark has a passion for the theater. Broadway has exerted a pull on him that is almost magical from the beginning. The lighting, the stage, the energy of a live crowd, and the sensation that anything can happen right in front of you are all things that enchant him. Throughout his career as an actor, he has always held a profound appreciation for it. I immediately understood why he sounded like a child on his way to an amusement park when he informed me that he was going to the very first preview, since he was going to the very first preview. Regarding that, I recall making a lighthearted joke to him. I asked, "Wait, were you referring to the initial preview? That one in which anything might possibly go wrong?" And he simply smiled that serene smile that Mark is known for and said, "Exactly, it's the best one out there." And to tell you the truth, that response completely encapsulates him. Preview performances are fantastic because they are not the polished and finished version that people witness on opening night. This makes them very fascinating. Raw is the word. Truly, they exist. The actors are still in the process of figuring out their melodies. At this very moment, the presentation is being shaped by the reactions of the audience. There are occasions when lines shift. At times, certain moments take a different turn. Watching the creative process unfold in real time on stage is a very similar experience. This is the kind of sincerity that Mark adores. Consequently, I was aware that he was not going to attend the performance as a mere spectator when he entered that venue for the very first preview. His presence was evidence that he is a person who is aware of the steps involved in the production of something of that magnitude from the very beginning. In the later hours of that evening, after the show, he called me. I was able to tell right away from the sound of his voice that it had been a remarkable experience. When someone is attempting to convey something that is truly great, but they keep halting because they are still digesting it themselves, do you know what happens? It was Mark who said that. His statements included phrases such as, "You should have seen this moment in the second act. The audience gasped during this one scene, and the energy in that room was unbelievable." He continued to mention these things over and over again, and all I did was sit there and smile while I listened, mostly due to the fact that when someone you care about goes through something that is significant, you feel it as well. We continued our conversation about it the following morning, and it was then that I became aware of how proud I was of him for being present. Despite its seeming simplicity, it is not. As a result of the fact that they frequently rely on one another for encouragement and feedback in order to build their confidence and better their craft, actors are aware of what it means to provide support to other performers, particularly during those early performances that are particularly vulnerable. Audiences that attend previews are unique. They are a component of the development of the program. A variety of locations are where they laugh. Individuals react in ways that the makers did not anticipate. The final version of what viewers will see on opening night is sometimes shaped by them, and they have the ability to influence features like as dialogue, timing, and character development based on their reactions and feedback. Even more than nearly everyone else I know, Mark is the one who values that process the most. Due to the fact that it was such a genuine experience, I ultimately decided to share the tale with the public. People have a tendency to view us as a television couple who are seen together hosting a morning program, making jokes in front of the camera, and going about our everyday routines. But I am reminded of the reasons why I appreciate him so much as an actor and as a person when I experience moments like that. Yet there's a sense of modesty there. Mark has spent decades working in the television industry. In addition to hosting, he has worked in the comedy, drama, and everything in between. On the other hand, when it comes to live theater, He continues to treat it with the respect of someone who is aware of how challenging it is. There is a distinction between television and Broadway. The second take is not available. Not a single edit was made. Every single member of the audience is present and aware of everything that takes place on stage at the same time. That is both worrisome and exciting at the same time. Congratulations. It is precisely for this reason why performers adore it. As soon as the lights were turned down and the curtain was raised for the first preview, Mark stated that the atmosphere in the room became electrifying. The audience was aware that they were observing a brand new invention that was developing steadily throughout the course of the night. Something about that is absolutely stunning. A mixture of enthusiasm and trepidation could be seen on the faces of the actors who were playing on stage. Every chuckle, every pause for applause, and every second of stillness was something that counted. The reactions of the audience served as signals that informed the cast about what was working and what would still require the cast to make adjustments. Mark remarked that it brought back memories of the reasons he fell in love with acting in the first place. By the time he finished describing the last curtain call to me, I was almost able to visualize it myself. There was a long wave of applause that rolled through a Broadway theater like a storm of praise. The performers went forward, the audience stood up, and there was that tremendous amount of appreciation. The moments that performers live for are just like that. Upon hearing everything that he had to say, I also became aware of something else. The honor of being able to watch those early performances is something to remember. There are some people who are unable to watch a show before it is officially opened. It's almost like having a glimpse inside the creative process through those previews. Naturally, I felt proud of him because of this. My admiration for him was not limited to the fact that he went, but also to the manner in which he explained it subsequently. It was not a cynical attitude. There is no criticism. Thank you very much. He praised the performers for their bravery in the performance. He lauded the extraordinary efforts that were put forward by the stage crew. The director's vision was progressively getting more and more concrete with each passing moment, and he was aware of everything. The name is Mark. Most people fail to notice the details that he does. In the later part of that day, I informed our audience about the event since I believed that they would find it interesting to become aware of it. When someone has the opportunity to witness something like a first preview, it is something that should be talked about because Broadway is such a significant part of the culture of New York City residents. I conveyed to everyone how ecstatic he had really been. I informed them that he had dashed home after the event in order to fill me in on every single detail. In addition, I stated that the fact that I saw him so enthusiastic about the theater brought back memories of the reasons I fell in love with him all those years ago. In terms of narrative, Mark possesses an enormous amount of energy. Whether it be on stage, in the movies, or on television, he has a strong faith in the transformative potential of performance. Broadway is the epitome of unadulterated expression of that. The audience and the actor are not separated by a screen in this situation. One and only a stage, a spotlight, and a room full of people all enjoying the same moment are all that are present. During the time that Mark was describing the applause that occurred at the conclusion of the play, he made a statement that really stuck with me. His words were as follows: "You could feel how much the audience wanted the show to be successful." The charm of preview performances lies in this very fact. Every single person in the room is rooting for the same exact thing. The audience is looking forward to witnessing something truly remarkable. The actors are striving to deliver the most impressive performance they are capable of. Due to the fact that the creative team is paying close attention, they are gaining an understanding of what works and what does not work in order to modify their strategy and improve the overall production quality in response to the reactions of the audience. In real time, It is a form of collaboration, and this is the reason why Mark felt so fortunate to be present that evening. As for me, hearing him talk about it brought to mind the fact that despite the passage of so many years, he still possesses the same level of enthusiasm that he did when we were younger. He continues to have the same joy when it comes to delivering stories, when actors are supporting each other, and when he is experiencing the thrill of a live performance. If they are truly a part of who you are, then those things will never become obsolete. Consequently, when I recounted the event to the general audience, it was not simply about Mark going to a preview performance. Honoring the experience was the focus of the celebration. It was about having an appreciation for the amazing amount of labor that goes into a Broadway musical before the curtain even rises on opening night's performance. In addition, it was about acknowledging the significance of those times when someone you care about returns home beaming with delight because they have just experienced something that will remain in their memory forever. It wasn't just a show that Mark looked at that evening. Artists were seen taking chances by him. He witnessed performers coming onto a stage with the knowledge that thousands of minute elements still needed to be perfected before they could perform. The genesis of something that would soon become a full-scale Broadway show was something that he witnessed. In addition, the manner in which he recounted it to me gave me the impression that I had been sitting down next to him in that theater setting. This is the power that comes from telling stories. Indeed, this is the reason why Broadway will continue to be significant. There is the potential for a room full of strangers to have a solitary emotional experience for the duration of a single night within a single theater. There was laughter, applause, stillness, and surprise. Every single one of these experiences takes place at the same time in the same location. Mark had the opportunity to be present during the very first spark of a new show. When I heard him talk about it, it brought to my mind that the beginning of a story is often the most thrilling section of the story. In my experience, there are times in life when you take a step back and understand that something seemingly insignificant can actually have a significant impact on your life. Precisely how I felt when Mark went to the Broadway preview and I started hearing about how the audience responded to him was precisely how I felt. On my end, it wasn't simply about making an appearance in the theater. The experience was about witnessing someone I care deeply about enter a location that holds a great deal of significance for him and seeing how people reacted to the energy that was present in the room. Mark did not make a great deal out of the fact that he was going to attend the preview when he originally informed me of his intention to do so. That's a really typical example of him. He is the kind of individual who arrives in a stealthy manner, offers his support for the participating artists, watches the performance, and then leaves without anticipating any kind of attention. What transpired that evening, however, turned out to be something that was significantly more significant than any of us had anticipated. In the aftermath of the event, he called me, and the first thing he said was, "You should have heard the audience." When I queried about his meaning, he responded with a giggle that is indicative of someone who is mildly overwhelmed but truly delighted. At the instant that people were aware that he was present, it appears that the atmosphere underwent a slight change. The environment changed not in a way that was disruptive, but rather in that friendly New York theater style where the crowd recognizes someone they admire and reacts with gratitude. The kind of reaction that does not cause a concert to be stopped, but does add a little bit of excitement to the crowd, is the kind that is described here. He shared with me that a few individuals in the vicinity saw him when the lights were turned on during the interval. It began with hushed conversations. In a theater, you are aware of how things unfold. Someone asks to their companion, "Wait, isn't that Mark Consuelos?" and then gives them a gentle nudge. Then all of a sudden, people are smiling, waving, and making an effort to be nice while clearly displaying signs of excitement. It was handled in just the same manner that Mark normally does. He got to his feet, smiled, shook a few hands, and expressed his gratitude to everyone for their generosity. In no way did he make it something that was about him. In point of fact, he was always urging folks to check out the performance. One of the things that I respect about him is that at no point does he make an effort to divert attention away from the performers. According to him, Broadway is that of the actors that perform on that stage. But the response from the audience was still very significant. According to him, at one point, someone said, "We love watching you and Kelly every morning." And another person said that they were tremendous fans of his work over the years. He told me that both of these statements were made together. These are the kinds of moments that are extremely moving because they serve as a reminder that people let you into their lives for the sake of watching television. Before someone communicates it to you in person, you don't always think about the relationship that you have with them. It was clear to me that he was feeling a sense of humility when he conveyed the response to me. In addition, occasions such as that carry a more profound significance for our family. Over the course of their childhood, our children have witnessed their father put in a lot of effort in this field. The profession of acting is not one that is easy to do. There are years that feel uncertain, such as when roles are sparse or when critical response fluctuates greatly. There are also years that are filled with happiness and years that are filled with sadness. Despite this, Mark has always handled it with the same level of consistent attention. Therefore, it was a very wonderful experience to learn that the audience members at that theater replied to him with such warmth. There was no reaction from the crowd to a role that he played or to a performance that they were viewing on film and watching. They were responding to the fact that he was just present here. You can learn something about how people interact with you over time from the kind of response you receive. When I told him that must have been such a surreal moment, he acknowledged that it was surreal, but also acknowledged that it was surreal in the most positive way conceivable. He regarded it as not being overpowering, but rather as being extremely kind. One more thing that he would not stop talking about was the buzz that was going on in the theater. Theater goers on Broadway are known for their intense devotion. It is because they enjoy the experience of attending a live concert that they are there. The mood is even more electrifying when a show is in previews because everyone is aware that they are witnessing something that is still developing until it is fully realized. As soon as the curtain was raised, Mark noted that the audience was completely interested in the performance. When the humorous moments occurred, people laughed out loud. The dramatic ones caused them to emit a gasp. In addition, by the time the show was over, the audience's applause was resounding. Because he was an actor himself, he felt a strong connection to that moment, despite the fact that he was not the one performing on stage. He shared with me that the experience of witnessing those performers take the stage brought to his mind how courageous theater actors are. Despite the fact that they are aware that anything could occur, they go out every night in front of hundreds of people. The safety net does not exist. That is not something that is usually present on television channels. Consequently, Mark stated that the atmosphere in the room was tremendous when the audience stood up at the conclusion of the performance to give a standing ovation. Not only did the audience express their admiration for the performance, but they also conveyed their thankfulness for the entire experience. Moreover, I must confess that listening to him tell, it made me feel emotional. The reason for this is that for our family, theater has always been a symbol of endurance and devotion. Mark has constructed a career that encompasses television, cinema, and hosting over the course of many years, but acting has been the cornerstone of all of his endeavors. Witnessing the enthusiastic reception that he received from the crowd in a Broadway environment felt like a festive celebration of his journey. After I had told the story, many inquired as to whether or not Mark was taken aback by the amount of attention that he had received. Yes, that is the truthful response. In reality, he was. It was his expectation that he would be able to sit quietly and take in a show. On the contrary, he ended up being the recipient of an unplanned expression of gratitude from the audience. The fact that everyone was courteous was, however, the thing that mattered the most to him. The event was not disrupted by any individuals. They did not cause complete anarchy. The only thing they did was acknowledge him with smiles and words of kindness. The manners of the New York stage are exemplified by this. When I heard about that reaction, I felt a sense of pride because I am his wife. The kind of pride that comes from being in the news or having accomplished a lot in one's work was not the kind that was displayed here. The kind of quiet pride that comes from seeing someone appreciated for who they are as a person was the kind of pride that I witnessed. Among the people I know, Mark is one of the most humble and hardworking individuals. He gets up early. He makes sure that everything he does is well prepared, and he shows respect to everyone who is in his immediate vicinity. The manner in which he approaches every conversation is consistent, regardless of whether it is with a stagehand, a producer, or someone sitting next to him in a theater seat. Moreover, I believe that audiences are able to sense that truthfulness. The fact that a famous person was seen in the audience at the Broadway theater that night was not the only thing that happened. In recognition of the commitment that goes into the trade, the community extended a warm welcome to the actor. What it takes to create a career in entertainment is something that Broadway spectators are well aware of. Performers who have put forth a lot of effort over a long period of time are respected by them. Mark has unquestionably accomplished that. In the end, we ended up talking about it for a considerable amount of time after he eventually arrived home and gave me the whole story. It wasn't because it was a particularly significant occurrence. Rather, it served to emphasize to both of us how fortunate we are. We are quite lucky to be able to call New York Place our home, as it is a place in which the theater plays an important part in the culture. It is a privilege for us to be a part of a sector that encourages the development of communities through the telling of stories. The fact that audiences continue to respond with warmth and passion, even after all these years, is a truly fortunate development for us. In addition, it was enjoyable for our children to hear about the trip. Children have spent their entire lives watching their father on television, but when they learned that he had been noticed in a Broadway theater, it brought a new perspective to their perception of his job. It brought to their attention the fact that acting is not merely something that takes place on a screen. It is a component of a more extensive artistic community. Moreover, that community places a high priority on commitment, respect, and enthusiasm. During the course of that evening, Mark repeated the same phrase over and over again. The audience was amazing. That is the thing that he has remembered the most. It's not the acknowledgement, the whispers, the waves, or the photographs that individuals sought after the concert were not the cause of the problem. It was the sensation that was there in that theater as the audience came up to applaud the stage performers. At that very instant, each and every person in the room felt the exact identical expression. Happiness. Herein lies the enchantment that is Broadway. More than just what takes place on stage is at play here. It's all about the energy that between the people watching the performers and the performers themselves. Mark had the opportunity to experience it from the perspective of the audience, where he was surrounded by individuals who share his passion for the art form. In addition, hearing him describe it brought to mind the reasons why live theater will continue to be so influential. There are hundreds of strangers sitting together in the dark for a few hours, watching a drama unfold under the bright stage lights where they are all sitting. Together they share a laugh. Together they hold their breath for a moment. At the conclusion, they collectively stand up and clap their hands. That evening, Mark was a participant in that moment that was shared. The way in which the audience responded to him added an additional layer of significance to the event. Our family was reminded that sometimes the most beautiful events occur when you are not expecting them at all. This was a lesson that we learned from this encounter. Thanks for watching this video, and please subscribe to our Kelly and Mark Official YouTube channel for more updated